Welcome to episode number 68 of the Roundtable. I'm Grant Brisbee here at the end of McCullough and Marc Carig. Andy, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, although I'm definitely not going to let you stand behind me.
All right. Mark, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine, Grant. I was just going to ask you how your stadium tour was the other day. I hear you were in the press box.
I was in. They had free cookies.
Wow.
Yeah,
amazing.
They had free cookies with M&Ms in them.
Did you get all their autographs and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I didn't bring the Giants hat where I get the autographs in the bill. I just brought a regular Giants hat to the
You see the players in their underpants and all that?
I didn't. Well, no, everyone was fully clothed. Brandon Crawford was very respectful. Let's just keep it at that.
Hey, seriously, Grant, so a really good friend of mine in the Bay Area was raving about what you wrote.
That's
off
sweet.
Of that. And so to just be earnest for a second, I think that's really hard to do, is to capture moments like that in a way that resonates with the fans, and you did it. So congratulations. I know that was a big deal in the Bay Area, and
hey, Mark,
hell of a story.
Who is your friend, Bob Melvin?
Hey man, Bob Melvin's a pseudo friend of the family, but go on.
What are we doing? What are we doing, man?
Okay, before we go on, the elephant in the room, I have a court order saying that we are not allowed to talk about Buck Showalter. Gag order, straight from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals Circuit Court. Like, it is ironclad. We cannot talk about Buck Showalter. The playoffs are starting, you monsters. So let's just dive right into playoff talk, right?
Yeah. So the Buck thing, Mark, you need to stop posting.
What? What did I do?
You know what you did.
I don't. Enlighten me, Andy.
You need to stop posting. Yeah. I mean, whatever. Obviously, there was not many scenarios where David Stearns was going to have Buck Showalter as his manager next year. There was been a little bit of criticism here in New York about the way it was handled, in that, Stearns wasn't even an employee yet of the Mets when he kind of pushed out Buck. I'm not totally sure how there is a way to handle that properly. What, you fire him the morning of the first press conference? Like, you have to do the press conference on whatever. Like, I understand, if from Showalter's perspective there was any frustration there, but like, I think everyone kind of involved understood the score. So yeah, Mark, congrats. Mark got what he wanted all along. Grant stabbed Gabe back.
Look at that.
You guys are
on Mark's face.
The both of you, I'm ashamed.
I mean, this is. I have no quarrel with Buck Showalter, none whatsoever. Like, as I said on social media this week, this guy's gonna go down as one of the best to ever do the job. Okay, so in the regular season, so and give him his due. He's a 4-time manager of the year. He keeps getting hired because he's good at his job.
The most incredible thing about the show is Mark is so preposterous that I find myself having to defend this. Like,
preposterous? The guy's resume is incredible, Andy. What do you want?
You're sick in the head.
Well, I don't understand. I'm sitting here saying that he's good at his job. Well,
you're sick in the head. You know exactly what you're doing. I've had enough.
I
don't like it when you do bits. You're not a bit.
This isn't a bit. He's a good major league manager, and he's had a hell of a career. What do you want from me?
He's clearly a bit guy. He might be the most bit guy on the podcast.
I feel like the end is very representative of his career, in that I think the only people who don't understand why this has happened are his surrogates. Okay, yeah. They're out there going crazy about. Look, it was an unfortunate situation, man. Like, they had a very bad year. There's a leadership change, and this is just how it works.
Business,
all right, man. They never even. And here's the thing, like, it's so easy to pile onto the Mets because God knows that there have been plenty of times where they've stepped on a landmine.
They're the Mets, yeah.
They're the Mets. Now, that said, did they even use the word fired did they make a big stinking deal of like firing?
Well,
It was not. There's no good way to do this, and it is very common in the sport for someone who's coming in a leadership role to have their own manager. Like this is very straightforward. It's unfortunate. There wasn't a good way to do it, but I don't look at that and think that they spiked the football on the guy.
No, they didn't.
They didn't fire him at 3:00 in the morning in Colorado,
right. After
like they did with Willie Randolph after a win because they didn't want to whack him on Father's Day.
No,
they didn't do that.
The funny part about it was that he was presented with the option of look, you can either walk down this plank or we're going to throw you over to the side of the boat. So like, it's up to you. But either way, you need to get off this vessel. He was, if you announce that he's fired on Monday morning, which was yesterday, the morning of the Stearns press conference, right? That becomes the dominant theme of the Stearns press conference.
Correct. Sure.
If you do it a day before, it's, you've turned the page, like, you know what I mean? Like, and look, like,
you
it's
get the
not,
same problem they actually had. Like, there's no good way to do it.
There's no good way to do it. So whatever.
And this way, by doing it this way, actually, Buck got the send-off he deserved, by the way.
Sure, yeah, which is the thing he wouldn't have gotten if they fired him on Monday.
So let me just, go all kayfabe here. My issue with Buck isn't even with Buck. I just find that he inspires a lot of lazy journalism. That's it. All right? Like, ultimately, that's what this is that Brittany Giroli wrote a really good column on Buck yesterday. And it was really good because it was nuanced. All she said was that, dude, this guy did a lot of things well. He wasn't perfect. Exactly. That's all. What I've always railed against is this idea that he is Saint Buck Showalter.
Hey, you want to speak about bad journalism? Speaking of bad journalism, Grant, you written anything about the Giants lately?
Yeah.
No, because I've been writing like postseason power rankings and wild card game previews.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing about the Giants? Can I say just one thing and then we'll move on to the postseason stuff?
Just
one thing.
Go.
Just
okay.
One
yes.
thing.
Yes.
I am confused why what the team is dealing with seems to be very clearly a failure of execution, i.e., not generating the homegrown players like, Ramos, Luciano, whatever, like not being stars yet or ready yet or whatever. And basically like close to striking out on their big ticket, whatever free agents, right? The guys they spent money on, why that's a failure of philosophy rather than a failure of execution. Right? Like it seems like very clearly like, hey, they didn't sign the right players. The farm system is not producing. Like, yeah, I don't understand why it's like Farhan Zaidi hates exciting baseball. You know what I mean? That confuses me.
Okay, so I'll break it down because I agree with you as quickly as possible because nobody wants to.
Dude, Grant is just furious right now. He wants.
I'm on like 3 hours of sleep. Baby.
Yo, I'd be furious.
He knows who's on the Rays. He's like, no, I definitely have thought about this. I know how to pronounce Yandy Diaz.
If I were out back digging a grave all weekend, I'd be freaking furious too.
Unbelievable! You believe this?
Oh my god. Okay. So here's the thing.
What Grant did.
Yeah, unbelievable. You think I'm bad?
Fair. I was very, very fair.
That body count.
Grant, what you wrote before before Kapler was deposed, I thought was excellent. And I thought it was all the criticisms were reasonable. I thought the points you made about how he's the public face of the organization and that needs to be more of his presentation. I thought that was totally valid. I just look at it as like what went wrong with the Giants seems very obvious, and it's being like extrapolated in a way that confuses me.
It's like, yeah, you hit on the two planks. There's two parts of this. And the first is that when they took over after the 2018 season, they had decent prospects, but they were mostly teenagers, really young. Luciano, you've got and the first round picks from the previous regime, Elliot Ramos and Joey Bart, didn't quite pan out. So you don't have those people in place, have those young players in place, that foundation that you probably want to have 4 years in. That's not necessarily the current regime's fault. It's just the way it is. So what do you have to do? You have to go sign free agents. Problem with that, free agents are terrible generally. And like, they're bad. They don't work out all over and over again. Right. And Zaidi, nailed a bunch of them early. Like he's Kevin Gossman. Like, oh, I'm a freaking genius. Wood Desclafani the first time.
Rodon,
nailed it. You got Carlos Rodon. Well, he's always hurt. Well, not this time, suckers. Like he's just going boom, boom, boom. And then this year, like normal free agent stuff happens.
Right. Yeah.
And now you don't have those teenagers are now 21, 22-year-olds. They're not quite ready to fill in charge. Man, this shouldn't have worked. And it worked in 2021 is what made people so mad because you felt like the timeline was accelerated.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think Zaidi should be worried about his job. I didn't even like when I wrote that thing about Kapler, I thought he was coming back next season. I was addressing the idea that people thought he should be fired. I didn't. But there you go.
Look, I think writing critically about teams that you covered is vital. And so that when you do it, that you got to have your bases covered. So as much shit as I like to give you, like I'm with Andy. I mean, it was a nice job. It was totally fair. It was the right thing to do. I also think, and whenever I see that kind of column or anything critical written, what is a reminder of just a lot of times the criticisms in bad faith. All right. Because it's like, it's people who had a problem with Farhan Zaidi the first day he was on the job. And never stopped having a problem with Farhan Zaidi. Yeah, it's just so much of that, I think, like contaminates the discourse over when you write something critical. Is that like a lot of times the voices that are the loudest are the ones that like haven't changed their ideas at all because they don't want to change their ideas. They just want to be pissed. All right. So it shouldn't take away from the fact that, you know, the coverage is fair and smart. And worth reading, which in your case it was. So, you know, I think I look at the Giants and it's like they're boring. I think that's their biggest crime. They bore the hell out of me. Like it's hard to get behind guys there, and like that. And I know people are going,
but it's being
crazy.
conflated. But it's being conflated that they're being boring on purpose.
Right, and it's not.
Which they're not.
They're not.
They want.
You're right.
You think Farhan Zaidi signed Michael Conforto thinking, I hope he's boring and has a 99 OPS plus.
Right.
He was like, wow, I really hope that he's the guy who had like a 130 OPS plus several years ago.
Grant, you're trying to tell me that you think the Giants are boring? You think the Giants are boring. You have a problem with them being boring, buddy? I was born in the darkness. You merely adopted it.
Yeah. You got Grant from Castro Valley. You're on KNBR.
The most boring team I've covered in a long time. I've covered worse teams. I've covered teams that made you want to eat your remote control. This team was boring.
Like, you know what I like about the Tampa Bay Rays this year? They're not boring.
Yeah, that's the new Rays. The new Rays score points. That's the Rays, yeah.
But they were boring back in the day sometimes.
Yes.
Like, cause it was just like, we're going to be a boa constrictor and just strangle you overnight. And like they won games and like they built their machine to do that. I didn't necessarily want to watch it.
Yeah.
These guys hit the ball over the fence. Like you said, I love that baseball managerism you threw in there. They do. They score points. It makes it different. It's fun. Like that counts. Okay.
Hey, I'll tell you one thing. And then we'll move on because producer Brian's going to lose it. The best thing that the 2023 Giants have done is they have convinced Grant that he can't just write about the Giants because his mental health will not allow it. And so he's going to be writing national stuff. And so it's a victory for readers that they will get the Daily Grant on stuff besides the Giants because they have pushed him to the edge.
Well, this actually, I appreciate that. This allows me to segue into the postseason, and it's good news, bad news, because the good news is I'm prepared. I have written thousands of words about these postseason teams. You want to talk Kyle Gibson? Man, he was okay in September. He was getting that two-seamer down, right? Like I know these teams.
God, this is hot.
The bad news is I was up until 3:30 in the morning doing all this stuff. And I'm on a couple hours of sleep. And so there's a really strong chance I'm going to be like, you know what the problem with women getting the right to vote is? And then I'm like, boom, next week you've got Nesbitt in my chair because I screwed up and I'm canceled. So let's talk postseason.
What's the problem? What was the first point? I'm just kidding. Go on.
Oh my God. Wow.
No. Hell no. He spent the last month trying to get me in trouble. The last month. Okay. Intentionally saying stuff so that the pizza eaters would yell at me.
Mark, so you do realize is that an editor at this company, you're actually in a supervisory role. And so you'll both lose your jobs and it'll just be 45 minutes of me monologuing. And that's what the
heads are like thrilled about that.
What the roundtable heads want is me just doing Bill Burr's podcast where I just talk by myself once a week. Like, you know what?
The analogy I always go with is Robert De Niro at the end of Casino. Like, here's my grievances. But I just want to say one thing to that point, and that's the odds on Gabe Kapler, like the actual betting line on Gabe Kapler coming back, were not strong enough for me to put money on them.
There you go.
So I just, Mark,
Grant, do you have a
la 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 la?
I'm teasing.
Grant, do you have a wild card series you are most looking forward to watching? Because I think there's a very clear choice. Excellent. But I'm curious.
Excellent question, Andy. I like Rays Rangers.
Me too,
I think
man.
Rays Rangers, to me, that could be like if that were an ALCS, I'm in. Like, I think that'd be a great ALCS. Now you're talking about best of three. The Rangers bullpen is hilarious, and I love that in a short series. The Rays, like you said, they can hit, they can zip around the bases. They do a lot of things well. I love this series.
Yeah, it's not far. Neither of these teams were far away from being the 1 and 2 seeds, right? Yeah. I mean, the Rangers, if they won one more game, win their division, couldn't take care of business against the Mariners, whatever. And then the Rays, like, they played bad baseball in July, and otherwise they've just been kind of a machine all year, despite all of their pitchers, getting injured, despite Wander Franco, going on admin leave. Like, the farm system keeps, producing guys. And like Mark said, there still probably is a conception about or perception about what Rays baseball looks like in the past couple of years, right? They're not that boring brutalist team they were, from I love that 19 and 20, where they kind of built runs out of a walk and a home run and then struck out 17 times. This club can hit a little bit, right? Yandy Diaz has had a wonderful year. Yeah. This is Randy Arozarena's time of year. They have the various lows and lows, although there's a lot of lows and lows in this one. There's Youngs, there's Jungs. I mean, this is if you like stuff, if you like mispronouncing names and not being totally sure, this is the series for you.
I'll tell you what else is going on with this series, and it's one of my personal favorite genres. Dude, there's some media on media crime going on.
Oh, don't.
All right, because we got Chris. How about Chris Young going on the radio yesterday? And you know who took aim at? Astros media. Because they had this big to do about how the Rangers are celebrating, and over the weekend they'd gone crazy about celebrating a postseason berth, and then took their eye, as the narrative goes, took their eye off the ball about winning the division, which then allowed Houston to do it. Anyway, I think that kind of stuff is hilarious. But with what's going on in the field, I mean, you're right. These are two teams that we were looking at as they should be could have been sitting at home. That kind of thing. That's how good they were. And the fact that they're going to be here fighting for their lives in a 3-game set. And there's good players all over the field on both sides of this thing. It's just a lot of really good ball players. I don't know. I love it. Yeah. Stakes are high. Yandy Diaz, you covered him. He's sort of that personification to me of how the Rays are different. This is a guy who's taken a step up. He's a force. Yeah. And we all know, when the lights come on, there's certain guys that you got to keep your eye on. And Randy Arozarena is that. And they got a bunch of guys in there that they've cycled in and out, in platoons or in roles that they've maximized. So it's going to be just as straight up talent goes. It's a treat that we're getting this in the first round.
It's so back to the point with the Rangers celebrating just for making the postseason, not winning the division. I get it though. I get it because they got a young manager. He's learning. Maybe next year he won't do that. He's just give him a little bit of time. He's still learning.
You know who the Giants could use?
Are you kidding? If we're talking maybe Dusty Baker, Bruce Bochy, ALCS. That'll make Giants fans just So good.
Yeah. Yeah. How about Ken Rosenthal had noted this today. We were talking about it last week. How about starting game 1 for the Texas Rangers, someone who the Yankees determined was not good enough to crack their postseason rotation,
Yeah.
Jordan Montgomery. Whoopsies. Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably do an external audit on that too.
I would bring a consulting firm in to tell me why we got rid of Jordan Montgomery and then handed that money to Carlos Rodon. And by the way, like the Rodon thing, again, is one of those where everybody knew the injury risk. The entire industry has said this is someone who's not only going to get hurt, it's when he goes down, it's going to be for months at a time. All right, no secret at all. And so what happened? Like Rodon not only hasn't pitched and hasn't been healthy, but looks like he's got the AJ Burnett Award. All right. Like he's got the Ed Whitson Award. Like he can't hack it here. All right. And meanwhile, here's Jordan Montgomery with the team, biggest games of the year. And he's taken, he's on the bump for game 1. I don't know. It's just, it really is an eye-opening thing. And yeah, it was funny that he noted that. And Kenny wrote a story about that specifically today, I think, just on Montgomery starting that game.
Mark, you of all people, AJ Burnett beat the Phillies in game 2 of the World Series.
He did. I mean, that was a bad example.
Settle down.
No, it was a bad. I was there.
Pavano.
Thank you. Yes, Javi Vasquez.
Carl Pavano.
The American Idol.
The Paul Pavano voice from I Think You Should Leave. Sorry.
By the way, I wanted to pass something along.
Talk about failure of execution instead of philosophy. I think you should leave.
Hey, Tim Britton says that you're a fake Simpsons fan. I just wanted to pass that along to you, Grant.
Okay.
He said that the other day. I thought that was pretty mean. I told him I'd send you the message. That's neither here nor there. But go on.
Okay. I'm not offended, whatever. But how does that come up in polite conversation?
I don't remember, but it
doesn't sound like it was polite.
It wasn't polite. He made a thing to say it too. I was just like, Grant's just working on his previews right now. What are you doing? Anyway.
I can't. It's postseason. I got my game face. I'm trying to get 10%.
But he called you a fraud. I just want to let you know that.
All right. Fair enough. I've played
Grant's brain is like Max Scherzer's arm right now. It's just hanging by a thread.
Yes.
He's cooked to the point of exhaustion, man. Like he's doing everything to try and get back for the postseason. And it's just like, look, at your age, like it just doesn't work like that anymore, man. You pushed it too far.
This man needs an MRI and a cortisone shot now.
I probably wrote
Mark right in his forehead.
6,000, 7,000 words last night between late. And I used to do that all the time, man. I used to do that all the time. No problem. Really, when you get I'm not an old man, but I am. It's hard now.
Hey, let me hang on. I'm just gonna get on Slack. I gotta Slack the masthead to get your medal ready. Get a
yeah, you think I'm hey, shut up. Wait, how many stories you file? Huh? Pencil pusher?
Oh, man.
Yes! It's coming out. There he is. I wish I could show the Slack exchange we had over the weekend. He crushed me. Marv Thornberry. That's what he said. Yeah. He said that would burn a little bit more from someone who was in a clubhouse, but Marv Thornberry still, the last time he was in the clubhouse, Marv Thornberry was an active player. Very good.
Someone tweeted, I don't remember who it was, so I apologize, but they said nobody's named Marv anymore, right? And that's all it takes to get Marv Thornberry stuck in my head like an ABBA song. And that's not how normal brains work, and I hate that my brain is like that, but I just went around all week going, Marv Thornberry. And so when I got to just spit it back out on Slack, it cured me. It was
he was
saying Beetlejuice 3 times.
He was the first baseman for the 1962 Mets, right?
Yeah. Was there a 62 Mets or was it 63? I don't even know.
No, called the marvelous Marv Thornberry.
The marvelous Marv Thornberry, yeah.
And it was very ironic because he wasn't marvelous, but anyway.
Right.
At baseball, anyway.
Yeah, that'll be a 2-1.
Brian in the chat drops a Marv Levy. We got Buffalo Bills.
Hey, speaking of the Buffalo Bills, are the Twins going to win a postseason game? Do you think is this the year?
All right. So I thought about this a couple different ways. In my piece, really good. You should read it. It's what is the opposite of the Yankees? Like we're talking literal opposite of a Yankee. It's someone who is not an American, someone from a different country. The Blue Jays, right? They play in a totally different country, as far away from a Yankee as any baseball team can get. They've got money with pictures of a queen on it. Like, forget about it. Like, this is their chance. And then I look through the roster, and I just see Aaron Hicks, and I wonder, am I?
Dude, Grant literally just had a breakdown.
A stroke?
Yeah, Grant's brain broke and his computer broke.
Aaron Hicks doesn't play for the Twins anymore. Are you having a stroke?
He thinks Aaron Hicks is on the Blue Jays.
No, I was having a stroke. Grant
really just completely melted down.
God.
That is, it's better than the one thing that I was saying.
His brain shorted out and his computer. Everything. Yeah, right.
Producer Brian says Grant's bookie cut his Wi-Fi. So what I was like, I realized halfway through that Aaron Hicks, and I was like, what? No. And then I'm in the tab for our video, and I clicked on Baseball Reference, and that took me away from the video. So yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Should I slack for a welfare check real quick?
Yeah, we need
as a supervisor, I have to make sure that the employees are okay. So
yeah, sorry, go on.
Here's what I got on the Twins, right?
Yes, please.
I've thought about this extensively. I've looked at their Baseball Reference multiple times. They do have, like, they're an 87-win team, right? The fewest wins of any team in the American League. They did underplay their run differential by like 6 or 7 wins, right? So playing in like the worst division ever, they're probably like a true talent 90-win team. In this format, though, like where they're starting Lopez and Sonny Gray, it's probably their best shot to win a series. I don't know. Mm-hmm. They have to be the dogs against America's team, the Blue Jays. Who Ken Rosenthal continues to point out that in a private conversation, I told him that I wasn't sure the Blue Jays were going to win the division, and now he just has to mention it every time the Blue Jays win a game.
It's the happiest I've ever seen him.
He's
God, he brings it up every single time I talk to him. It'd be like, we were talking about a schedule thing. He's be like, and he thought they were paper tigers. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, if they lose to the Twins, buddy, that's I don't know. I think that series has a lot of there's a lot of teams trying to get millstones off their back type thing, right? Like the Blue Jays have sort of underperformed over the past few years. They were probably the best team in the East in 2021. They just kind of didn't crank it up until too late. They kind of blew the series to the Mariners last year at home. They were, a lot of people, including dummies on this podcast, picked them to win the division this year, unlike geniuses who picked the Yankees, baby. Let's go. 27 rings. 27 rings. You got none. What was I saying? Yeah, so I don't know. And then you've got just all of the sort of psychic despondency going on, in the Twin Cities where I wrote just a brief thing about this. 2004 was the last time they won a postseason game.
Crazy.
2000, and it's not like the Mariners didn't go to the playoffs forever. The Royals didn't go to the playoffs for however many years. No, they've won the division 5 times. They've had home field advantage in some of these series. They just lose. It's the very least they're not playing the Yankees.
It is wild. And we're not talking if you had said they haven't won a postseason series since 2004, it's oh my gosh, that is not even one postseason series, a game, a single game. And they've had so many opportunities. The thing with the Twins and the Blue Jays, in almost all of the teams in the postseason, they have this phalanx of starting pitchers with an ERA between 3 and 4, solid, square G's, like real good, pitchers. And those to me in the postseason are always just the most dangerous, not the most dangerous, but the variable where you're thinking like, oh, you know what? Like I've got Jose Barrios and like, he's good. And then whoops, couldn't get out of the third inning. Right. And I'm not trying to pick on him specifically, but like the whole staff is like that where, oh, Sonny Gray. Yes, Sonny Gray's great. Oh, couldn't get out of the fourth inning. Right. That is the postseason. And I'm not seeing on any team, this kind of Schilling Johnson or Cliff Lee in his prime, or you got Doc Holliday, right? It's not there other than maybe Zach Wheeler, but even there.
Well, the team who might have come closest would have been the Brewers if they had Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. And Brandon Woodruff, who's been nailed since he came back in August, like just showed up with a bum shoulder yesterday.
Yep.
And that, like, the Brewers go from being like, hey, look, they're going to ride these two guys, some Freddie Peralta, throw in Wade Miley, like they're going to run suppression their way to the World Series. You can see it, right? And now it's like, that's going to be a bit more challenging because Woodruff's a dude. Like he's been really good for quite some time. Not as good as Burns, but he's he's a legit number 2 starter when he's healthy. He just hasn't been healthy for most of the year. And so you're right. Like outside of Wheeler and Burns, who is there a starting pitcher who's going to get into the 7th inning in these series?
Well, this leads me to a point I wanted to make. Who do you think has the deepest rotation, at least in the AL, but probably in the postseason field?
I think, the deepest rotation, I think, is actually the Blue Jays. They have 5 guys.
Okay, that's a good answer. That's good. The Twins are also good. I'm going to drop an Orioles on you. Like, I'm going to go Orioles as, like, I have never said Kyle Bradish's name out loud. It might be Kyle Braddock. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know. That guy.
He has been sneaky good this year for what it's worth.
So good. And Grayson Rodriguez has been so good in the second half. And you've got John Means back, and he's doing all this Kirk Reeder stuff with fluttering changeups.
Kirk Reeder?
Yeah, you better believe it. I was at his home a few years ago.
What?
You read the article, man. It's on The Athletic. It's one of my favorite pieces of all time. Kirk Reeder, baby. I'll talk about him. I used to be on a TV show, and I would wear a T-shirt that said Kirk Reeder for president. And that's why I didn't get my BBWAA card until just a couple years ago, because they didn't like that I was wearing shirts like that on TV. Did this derail a little bit?
Anyway, sorry about
I don't know if we've ever been on.
John Means, baby. John Means. Let's Means test.
Sees the John Means of production. Let's go.
Yes, that's sir. Funny. No, I honestly, the Orioles to me, the more I looked at them, the more I studied them like a multifaceted diamond. I like them to win it all, baby. I like them to win it. Like Orioles, Braves in the postseason. I'm in.
I think the Orioles are going to lose in the first round they play. Yeah, and it's nothing not. I mean, that's just a feeling I have. I think they're going to play a team that's as good as them, right? Because they'll draw either the Rays or the Rangers.
Aren't the Phillies pretty good pitching wise? By the way, I'm sorry.
Nola's not the same.
Yeah, like it's not last year.
I know, but the thing with guys like that is that you always. I mean, for me, like that dude can just show up. Okay, like that. The thing is, like when guys like that, when they have it in him, like obviously, like if you look at the body of work for this year, it's not the same as been in the past. He's had a lot of like inconsistency, but I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to. That was just in my head. Like,
it's Kyle Bradish, by the way.
Is it
not Bradish? Yeah, no, I hadn't said it. I hadn't said it out loud, and I knew I was going to screw it up. I've watched him pitch. Don't even put that on me. Like I haven't even watched him pitch. The Orioles are my MLB.TV team. I've told you that. but
I was looking at the best pitches that we're going to see in the postseason the other night, just on StatCast, and Bradish had 2 of him. His breaking balls are like Bradish, whatever. Like good pitcher. But like he was the only one like really high up there that had 2 pitches on the list, which I thought was interesting. I think it was a slider and his curveball actually. So anyway,
so good. He's
they think
so
they're
good.
better. Those pitches are better than Clayton Kershaw's slider and curveball?
Kershaw's way up there. Kershaw's like 2 or 3.
Just checking.
Yeah. No, it's okay, Andy. It's fine. I did not.
Hey, is there a bell anywhere?
No, but I smell it. Oh, it's Clayton Kershaw's shoulder.
Oh,
that's not very
nice. Dude, his like the StatCast likes his slider even with the busted shoulder, man. Like that's impressive. Imagine.
Yeah, it's one of the best pitches in baseball history
ever.
I watched him pitch recently, and it's amazing what he's doing when he's working through some things. So like I get that, but they're not. This is not the Dodgers team where they are trying to go. Kershaw on short rest all the time. Like they're trying to figure a bunch of things out. But man, what he's doing is. In all seriousness, that dude's so awesome. All those pitches, so I've watched. He's got a career ERA of like 1 point something or other against the Giants, and just so I've had a front seat to him.
Yeah,
maybe 300 innings against the Giants. He's so good, and now to see him into this third phase of his career. Like he is really impressive. Someone should write a book about him.
Someone should, and maybe someday they will. May 7th next year. The Last of His Kind. Please pre-order now. One thing I will say. So one thing is as part of this this book that both reported out and then can say statistically, and I think you're seeing it now. And like with the way he's been pitching over the last month, when he's clearly physically compromised, is that Clayton Kershaw is probably the best pitcher in baseball history at run prevention, at not giving up runs. He's not the most prolific strikeout guy. He's never had the highest velo, all that stuff, but he has the lowest earned run average of any, starting pitcher since they livened the baseball. He has the lowest ERA plus of any pitcher, starting pitcher. And you see it in that, like, he's sitting like 87, 88. His stuff does not work the way it used to. He's still just hitting the same glove side down quadrant that he always has, and just basically hammering, with repetition and like managing game sequences. He's not, can't really command the curveball, right? He's not getting the swings and misses he did on his fastball. The slider looks more like a slider when it comes out of his hand than it used to. And yet you look up, it's like 5 innings, 1 run. Like, it's the furthest thing from pretty. It's the furthest thing from enjoyable for him. His how much he's disliking the physical limitations is fairly obvious. But like one of the themes of the book is like his teammates, like the people around him, believe that he has some sort of natural gift for run prevention. That like Zach Greinke and Brandon McCarthy would talk about it like as if he was like possessed by magic powers, and that he can get the outcome he's looking for. Like by, he needs a double play. Well, there's a double play ball, and it's not like a Greg Maddux thing where he's thinking 7 pitches ahead of like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, and then he's going to do that. It's more just like, I'm going to keep doing this and I'm going to get the results that I need. And I think this next month, for however long the Dodgers can ride him, they need that quality above all else. Like they need his ability to manage games and outcompete his opponent, because his body is not permitting him to do much more than that.
So this is off of that point, right? I was looking at this the other night there's the top 20 list as far as pitchers and their best pitches run value. Okay. Mm-hmm. 13 of those 20 are in the postseason, which I think is really cool. That's a lot. Okay. Mm-hmm. Kershaw is 6th. All right. It's a slider. So the first is Zach Gallen's 4-seamer and Chris Bassett's sinker. Like no shock for both. Right. Okay. They're tied up there. And then, Charlie Morton, with the curveball, which I mean, like he's got some time here to get that in order. Okay. Sonny Gray sweeper is 4th. And these are all now within 1, run value. Okay. Mm-hmm. Corbin Burns is cutter. Clayton Kershaw slider. So that is impressive to me, because as everybody knows it, this guy's battling through this, and yet, right, just objectively, he's got a weapon that's still elite. despite all of that, and that if all he needs to be successful is all of those intangibles that you've laid out that his teammates are convinced he possesses, but one elite tool, that's enough. Like, and that is kind of amazing to me. Like, yeah, he is, not only is he like still generating that kind of outcome when he's clearly compromised, but he's doing it to the point where, I mean, this guy's one of the best pitchers in the pool right now, right? Like, if you just looked at it for like what he is in this moment, even without the track record, just look at, hey, just line him up. He's in that mix of like, damn, this guy is somebody who's gonna, be a huge difference maker. I don't know. It's just amazing to me, and I guess like that's why those guys are who they are, right? They're different. They're different.
I think it's wild that Kershaw is. So it's like if you're a Phillies third base prospect and you are like you're just like a third base prospect for the Phillies. Can you imagine being better than Mike Schmidt? Right? Like it's not what? No. Okay. Like I might have a great career and I might do all sorts of things, but come on. Like I'm not going to be better than Mike Schmidt. Like that's what Kershaw was as a prospect. Like, well, he's a left-handed guy. He's not going to be better than Koufax. He's better than Koufax. Like he is. I have so much respect for him, and I don't know. He is so good. And I got back in my SB Nation days, my beat was stop yelling at him for the postseason. The Dodgers are putting him in an awful position all the time. You've got Hanley Ramirez at shortstop when he shouldn't be there. If he makes the play he should make, he gets out of this inning. Like that was my beat. And I hate that criticism about him. And I'm glad to see that he's in the postseason where like, he's not going to have that short rest pressure where if he doesn't go 8 innings, people aren't going to freak out. Postseason Kershaw, here he goes again. So I'd like someone to write a book on. That's all.
Well, Grant, I have great news for you. Mark has told me about an interesting new project he's doing, and so he's gonna have it coming.
Yes, it's called "We Need You, Big Guy."
We need you. Yeah, that's the classic genre.
Hey. Sweet Christmas. Producer Brian's dropping in a World Series prediction.
Producer Brian is showing yet again why I am the glue of this show. Hey, Grant, we have our World Series predictions from March up here. You've got
oh my God, that's awful. Anyway, go on.
Hold on. You've got the Padres of San Diego and the Mariners of Seattle as your pick.
I don't think he's gonna cash that ticket, boys.
Yeah, did you put money on that? I hope not.
Well, of course I did, but no, but that was more of I think the universe owes this to us. Like I'm not that's not I'm using my baseball acumen to make an actual prediction. That is this is going to be awesome if it happens. I will defend that. That is me being, it's not a bit, but it's not a bit.
That would be awesome if it happens. And if I lost 50 pounds, that would be awesome if it happens. But it's never going to happen, Grant. So grow up.
I've lost 50 pounds on the Padres before.
He's doing accents now. Oh, man.
He's losing it, man.
Woo! Another stroke. Is this your second stroke of the last 43 minutes?
Grant really did. He really did short circuit.
No more previews for this guy. We can't have this.
Thank you.
Just so everyone knows, my World Series prediction from March is the same one I have now. It's Braves Astros.
That's it right now?
Yeah. I think they're the two best teams. I mean, I think the Braves. So, I think the two best teams right now entering the tournament are the Braves and the Dodgers. I think that the specific Dodgers weakness, which is the kind of shortness of their staff and the fact that they are going to have to really mix and match, that it can be exploited over a 7-game series by the Braves, whose lineup just never quits. And so I just think they match up. I think they just match up really poorly against Atlanta, because it's what is the third look at Ryan Yarbrough going to be? What the second time they see Emin Sheehan? It's just 7 games is a long time, to try and get through that lineup without 4 starting pitchers you can ride. And I think Atlanta's the best team. I think the Astros are battle tested. I will pick against the Astros when I see them lose in a non-World Series context.
I had the Braves and Jays, so at least they're both alive.
Still alive.
I mean, the Jays
could do it, man.
You know, like who knows? Like they've been just like an infuriating team all season long. So, you know, to my point earlier, like the thing that's annoying about them is that they can have a good couple weeks and we're, you know, and Andy's, you know, going out and getting red and blue money up north. Okay? And like, you know, like fiddling with the internet at the Eaton Center Marriott. So like, you know, like this, it's very possible. Okay. Like squinting from left field, fourth level.
Yeah.
What's going on in the field.
Yep.
So, but like, look.
In an aux box in Mississauga.
Yeah, you go. But like you're talking about the Braves and who matches up. No one matches up well against that lineup. That lineup's incredible. Like I don't, you know, and I think people have done it over the last month where it's like, hey, wait a minute. Holy shit, they're not just good. They might be all-time good. They are scary. Okay, because not only do like the old school numbers show you how productive they are, but the deeper you look at it, you're just like, holy shit, they might be better than like what the numbers actually show. All right, like their underlying stuff is scarier. Like everybody hits the cover off the ball. They're athletic. They beat you in different ways. There's slightly different types of hitters in that lineup, and they never stop coming at you. All right, they're unrelenting. It's unbelievable how good they are.
Straight up 27 Yankees, but Gehrig's stealing 70 bases.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's not that far off. Yeah, I mean, like you know, one of the things I was thinking about as I looked at the entire pool was just like how much athleticism might come into play this year, because you figure guys will be a lot more active on the bases because there's an incentive to do so. Andy wrote a great story on the pitch clock the other day. If you haven't read it, you should. It's a good breakdown of just, hey, this is an unknown and people are going to have to deal with this. And when things like that happen, all right, like it could get chaotic. So, you know, anyway, like the Braves to me bring every tool that you need to the table to win a ball game in October. And in fact, you could argue that, like, you know, in one guy, in Acuna, all right, that's just about everything you need to win a game in October, because you got to hit a ball over the fence. He can do that. All right. And in those tight games where like you got to maximize every base runner you got, well, you walk him, he's going to be in scoring position.
Yep.
Like that's really amazing, powerful stuff. And to have that in your lineup every single day. And then, by the way, surrounded by all those other dudes that can punish you.
Yeah.
Like, that is overwhelming.
The nightmare of Acuna followed by Ozzy Albies, who can bunt for a hit, and he hit 33 homers this year. He slugged like 515, you know, like, and then, you know, Riley, Olsen, Murphy, you know, Michael Harris has been good. You know, we saw what Eddie Rosario can do. Like, it's just, that lineup is a propulsive, unrelenting force that, pretty much every team matches up poorly against. I was just saying that the Dodgers, who I think I would probably pick over every other team, like the one thing they're struggling with is what the Barbs can expose. And obviously the Phillies are going to win. They're going to beat the Braves again, because just the vibe, you know, because like the Phillies are, I will say, you know, like the Phillies just, they have it's cliche, but like they do have chaotic energy. Like they are a preposterous team. You know, they could very easily go and do what they did last year with Atlanta.
Producer Brian is going nuts. Because he needs to chop this up and get it out before the first game of the postseason.
Sorry.
You're so
Grant,
inconsiderate.
Who do you want to replace Gabe? You're not supposed to answer that. You're not supposed to answer that.
Okay.
You're not supposed to answer that. Put your picks in.
All right, so now we got to get our pick. So you're sticking with Braves Astros, Andy.
I'll stick Braves Astros, yeah.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
I'm gonna stick with Braves Jays just out of principle, and like obviously I'm going Atlanta all the way.
Fair enough. Well, then I'm sticking with Padres Mariners. No, I'm going Braves Orioles. I said it early in the podcast. I want Braves Orioles. I want to see
fun.
That's the only team that I think can give the Braves just a little bit of cinnamon and sugar when it comes to their starting rotation. I think they would do a good job. Braves Rays would be good too. Anyways, this has been episode number 68 of the Athletics Roundtable Baseball Podcast. We'll be back next week on Wednesday. because of scheduling things. So we'll be back then. See you next week. We'll talk about baseball because that's what we do. See ya.